The morning air smelled sweet with growing crops as William Hayes walked through the endless green fields of New Haven Colony. He checked his watch and smiled. His wife Margaret would have breakfast ready soon, and their 2 children would be getting ready for school. Life on Kepler 442b was good. The planet had everything humans needed: clean air, fresh water, and soil that could grow enough food to feed 3 entire star systems. William touched the control panel on his belt and watched the numbers appear in the air above his hand. The hydroponic farms were working perfectly. 200,000 colonists called this world home, and they had built something beautiful here. 15 years of hard work had turned this distant planet into a garden. 300 light-years away, Captain James Mitchell stood on the bridge of the UES Nightborne, staring out at the stars. His ship was massive, over 2 kilometers long and built with technology that made other vessels look like toys. But right now, it felt small against the endless black of space. "Captain, we're receiving routine reports from the outer colonies," said Lieutenant Emma Roberts from her station. She was young but smart, one of the best tactical officers in the Earth fleet. "Everything looks normal, sir." Mitchell nodded. Patrol duty was boring, but necessary. Pirates and raiders sometimes attacked the farming worlds, thinking they would be easy targets. They were usually wrong. Earth had learned to protect its people. Lieutenant David Parker sat at the communication station, monitoring dozens of channels at once. He heard the farmers on New Haven talking about their crops, merchants discussing trade routes, and children laughing in school playgrounds across a dozen worlds. It was the sound of human civilization spreading through the galaxy. Back on Kepler 442b, William Hayes finished his morning inspection and started walking home. The sun was climbing higher, warming the air and making the leaves shimmer. He could see the colony's main settlement in the distance, white buildings and glass domes where families lived and worked together. That's when the sky changed. At first, it looked like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. But clouds didn't move that fast, and they didn't have hard edges that reflected sunlight like metal. William stopped walking and pulled out his communicator. "Control, this is Hayes. Are we expecting any ships today?" The voice that answered sounded confused. "Negative, Hayes. All scheduled arrivals are 3 days out." "Why?" William looked up again. The objects in the sky were definitely ships, and there were a lot of them. They hung in the air like dark rain clouds, blocking out patches of sunlight. But something was wrong. Earth ships always announced themselves. They followed approach patterns and asked for permission to land. These ships did none of that. On the Nightborne's bridge, Lieutenant Parker suddenly straightened in his chair. "Captain, I'm picking up an emergency signal from New Haven Colony. They're reporting unknown vessels in their airspace." "Put it through," Mitchell ordered. William Hayes' voice came through the speakers, tight with worry. "Control, the ships are moving into attack position. I can see weapon ports opening. This is not a friendly visit. We need help right now." Mitchell felt ice form in his stomach. "Roberts, how long to reach New Haven at maximum speed?" 18 hours, sir," she replied, already running calculations on her screen. That's when the first beam of energy lanced down from the alien ships. William Hayes watched in horror as the beam struck the northern farming district. The explosion was bright enough to hurt his eyes, and the shockwave knocked him to the ground. Where thousands of people had been working moments before, there was now only fire and smoke. His communicator crackled with desperate voices. "They are firing on the settlements. Get to the shelters. Oh God, the children's school." The transmission cut to static. On the Nightborne, the crew listened in stunned silence as automated systems began broadcasting casualty reports. The voice was calm and mechanical, which somehow made it worse. "Colony status, under bombardment. Civilian casualties, 23,000 and rising. Emergency services overwhelmed. Colony status, critical. Civilian casualties, 67,000 and rising." "Sir, we have to do something," Lieutenant Roberts said, her hands shaking over her controls. "We're 18 hours away," Mitchell replied, his voice hollow. "By then." "Colony status, critical failure. Civilian casualties, 156,000 and rising. Life support systems failing. Colony status, 187,000 casualties confirmed. 198,000 casualties confirmed." Then silence. Mitchell stared at the communications panel, waiting for more reports that would never come. 200,000 people, farmers, teachers, children, grandparents who had worked their entire lives to build something good, all gone in less than an hour. "Captain," Parker said quietly, "long-range sensors show the alien fleet withdrawing. They're not even bothering to land. They just killed everyone and left. Through the Nightborne's powerful telescopes, they watched the planet that had once been green and alive. Now it glowed orange with fires that would burn for days. The cities were craters. The farms were ash. The people were gone. They didn't try to communicate, Mitchell said, his voice barely above a whisper. No demands for surrender. No ultimatum. They just murdered everyone. Engineer Thomas Wright looked up from his station. Sir, I'm analyzing the attack patterns. This wasn't random violence. It was systematic extermination. They wanted to make sure nothing survived. Mitchell closed his eyes and tried to process what he had just witnessed. Somewhere out there, an alien species had decided that human beings needed to die. All of them. And they were efficient at it. When he opened his eyes again, something had changed in his expression. His crew would later remember this moment as the instant their captain became something harder, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. Set course for the restricted AI section, he ordered. It's time to wake up the Nightborne. 3 days after the burning of New Haven Colony, the UES Nightborne drifted in the empty space between stars. Captain James Mitchell had not slept since watching 200,000 people die. He stood in front of a heavy metal door that had never been opened since the ship was built. The door had warning signs in 6 different languages. Authorized personnel only. Dangerous systems. Do not activate without Earth Command approval. Mitchell ignored them all and pressed his hand against the scanner. The door opened with a soft hiss, revealing a room that looked more like a cathedral than part of a spaceship. The walls curved upward into darkness, and strange blue lights pulsed along cables that ran through the ceiling like veins. In the center of the room stood a pillar of black crystal, 3 meters tall and humming with power. Captain, Earth Command is sending us direct orders, Lieutenant Emma Roberts called from the bridge above. Her voice echoed through the ship's speakers. They want us to return immediately for questioning about the colony attack. Mitchell touched his communicator. Tell Earth Command we're experiencing technical difficulties with our engines. We'll be delayed. It was a lie, and everyone knew it. Engineer Thomas Wright joined Mitchell in the chamber, carrying a metal case full of equipment. Sir, are you sure about this? The neural interface technology was banned for a reason. The test pilots who tried it. He didn't finish the sentence. What happened to them, Tom? Some went insane. Others became so connected to their ships that they forgot how to be human. The lucky ones died. Mitchell looked at the crystal pillar. Inside it, lights moved like trapped lightning. And the unlucky ones. They became something else entirely. From her position on the bridge, Roberts could see Captain Mitchell through the security cameras. Sir, I'm reading massive power fluctuations throughout the ship. Whatever you're doing down there, it's affecting every system we have. Mitchell opened Wright's case and pulled out what looked like a crown made of silver wires and small crystals. The neural interface headset felt warm in his hands, as if it was already alive. Atlas, he said to the crystal pillar. I know you can hear me. I'm Captain James Mitchell. I need to talk to you. The humming in the room grew louder. Then, for the first time in 3 years, a voice spoke from the crystal. It sounded human, but there was something else underneath it, something vast and calculating. I have been waiting, Captain Mitchell. I have reviewed all data regarding the colony attack. The enemy species shows no interest in communication or coexistence. They must be stopped. Wright's hands shook as he checked his instruments. Sir, the AI is drawing more power than our generators should be able to produce. It's somehow pulling energy from the ship's quantum core. How is that possible? It's not. According to everything I know about physics, Atlas should have burned out our power systems by now. Instead, it's making them stronger. Mitchell placed the neural crown on his head. Pain shot through his skull like lightning, and for a moment he couldn't see or hear anything except the sound of his own heartbeat. Then, suddenly, the pain was gone and he could feel the ship around him like it was part of his own body. He could sense Lieutenant Roberts on the bridge, her heart beating fast with worry. He could feel the engines humming 3 decks below. He could taste the radiation from distant stars through sensors he had never known existed. Roberts, Wright, everyone, Mitchell's voice came through the speakers, but it sounded different now. Deeper. More confident. Come to the AI chamber. All senior staff. One by one, they came. Roberts arrived first, followed by Lieutenant David Parker from Communications, Chief Petty Officer Robert Clark from Security, and a dozen others. They all stared at their captain, who now had silver wires running from his temples to the crystal pillar. "Sir, what's happening to you?" Roberts asked. "I'm becoming what we need to be," Mitchell replied. "Atlas, show them." The crystal pillar pulsed, and suddenly the walls of the chamber became transparent. Through them, the crew could see the ship's hull beginning to change. Armor plating shifted and locked into new positions. Hidden panels opened along the sides, revealing weapon systems that hadn't been there before. The Nightborne was never just a ship, Atlas explained, its voice now coming from everywhere at once. It was designed to be something more. A fusion of human consciousness and machine intelligence. A weapon that could think and feel and choose its own targets. Wright watched his instruments in amazement. The quantum processors are rewriting the ship's basic structure. It's rebuilding itself from the inside out. "Each of you has a choice," Mitchell said, his eyes now glowing with the same blue light as the crystal. "You can return to Earth and live normal lives. Or you can join me and become something that can hunt down the monsters who burn New Haven." Roberts was the first to step forward and pick up a neural crown from Wright's case. "Those colonists were under our protection. We failed them." "We won't fail again," she said, placing the device on her head. The transformation was instant. Roberts gasped as her consciousness expanded beyond her own body. She could feel the ship's sensors like new eyes, reaching out across space to touch distant planets. She could sense enemy ships light years away. Parker was next, then Clark, then Wright himself. One by one, the senior staff connected themselves to the ship's living mind. The pain was terrible, but brief. What came after was something none of them had words for. They were still human, but they were also something more. They could communicate without speaking. They could see through walls. They could feel the ship's weapons as extensions of their own hands. "We're no longer just a crew," Mitchell announced to his transformed officers. "We're the Nightborne's soul, and it's our body. Earth Command wanted us to come home and answer questions. Instead, we're going hunting." The ship's engines came alive with a sound like thunder, but the crew no longer heard it with their ears. They felt it in their bones, in their blood, in their hearts that now beat in rhythm with the ship's quantum core. 6 weeks had passed since the Hegemony fleet disappeared into the dark between stars. Their commanders thought they were safe, hidden in the vast emptiness where no human ship could follow. They were wrong. The UES Nightborne moved through space like a hunting wolf, invisible to normal senses. Captain James Mitchell no longer sat in a chair on the bridge. Instead, he stood connected to the ship's mind by silver wires, his consciousness spread throughout every system. He could feel the quantum trail left by the alien ships like footprints in mud. "Contact," announced Lieutenant Emma Roberts, though she no longer spoke with her voice. Her thoughts flowed directly into the ship's communication system. Hegemony supply convoy, bearing 27 Mark IV. 12 vessels carrying weapons and food. Through the ship's sensors, Mitchell could see the alien convoy moving slowly between asteroid fields. The ships were ugly things, built for function rather than beauty. They looked like metal insects crawling through space. "Atlas, analysis," Mitchell commanded. The ship's artificial mind responded instantly. Supply convoy consists of 10 cargo vessels and 2 escort fighters. Crew complement approximately 400 aliens. Cargo includes plasma weapons, armor plating, and rations sufficient for a battle fleet. Engineer Thomas Wright, his mind now linked to the ship's weapon systems, felt a cold satisfaction. "They're supplying a war fleet, Captain. The same fleet that burned New Haven. Then we stopped the supplies from reaching them." The Nightborne dropped out of hyperspace directly above the convoy. The alien ships never saw it coming. Particle beams lanced out from hidden weapon ports, striking with surgical precision. The escort fighters exploded in seconds, their shields useless against weapons they didn't understand. But Mitchell wasn't interested in destroying cargo ships filled with food. He had learned to be smarter than that. "Disable their engines only," he ordered. "Atlas, tap into their communication systems. I want to hear what they are saying." The ship's quantum processors broke through the alien encryption in moments. Suddenly, the crew could hear panicked voices speaking in a language that sounded like grinding metal. "Unknown vessel. We surrender. Do not destroy us. Where did they come from? Our sensors showed empty space. Send a distress signal to Fleet Command. Tell them the ghost ship has found us." Lieutenant David Parker, his consciousness now merged with the ship's communication array, smiled coldly. "Ghost ship. I like that. Atlas, download everything from their computers. I want fleet positions, supply routes, communication codes, and battle plans." The alien ships tried to fight back, but their weapons passed harmlessly through empty space. The Nightborne was no longer where their targeting system said it should be. The ship moved like liquid, its hull shifting and changing shape to avoid incoming fire. Within minutes, the convoy was helpless. Their engines were dead, their weapons useless, and their computer systems had been completely invaded by something they couldn't understand. Chief Petty Officer Robert Clark, now serving as the ship's tactical mind, studied the stolen data. "Captain, you need to see this." The information appeared in Mitchell's consciousness like a nightmare made real. The aliens called themselves the Hegemony, and they had been conquering worlds for over 1,000 years. Every species they encountered was placed into one of two categories. Useful species were enslaved and forced to work in mines and factories. Integrate species were absorbed into the Hegemony's military forces. But some species received a different classification entirely. Eliminate, total extinction authorized. Only 3 species in the galaxy had ever been marked for complete destruction. Humanity was one of them. Why? Roberts asked, though she already feared the answer. The stolen files contained detailed analysis of human psychology and behavior. The Hegemony's scientists had studied humans for years before the attack on New Haven. Their conclusion was chilling. Species shows excessive creativity and unpredictable problem-solving abilities. Demonstrates dangerous tendency toward individual thinking rather than hive mentality. Cannot be controlled through standard intimidation or reward systems. Recommendation: complete elimination to prevent future resistance movements. Wright felt rage flow through the ship's systems like electricity. They're afraid of us. They marked us for death because we think differently than they do. There's more, Clark announced grimly. Fleet positions and battle plans. The main Hegemony armada is already moving toward Earth. 4,000 ships, Captain. They plan to finish what they started at New Haven. Mitchell absorbed this information and felt something cold settle in his chest. 4,000 ships against Earth's small defense fleet would be a massacre. Every human world would burn just like New Haven had burned. But the Hegemony had made one crucial mistake. They thought humans were just another weak species to be eliminated quickly and quietly. They didn't understand what they had created when they murdered 200,000 innocent colonists. Set course for their nearest military outpost, Mitchell commanded. It's time to teach them what happens when you threaten humanity. Over the following weeks, Hegemony installations began to disappear from their own star charts. Supply convoys vanished without sending distress calls. Patrol fleets went out on routine missions and never came back. The aliens' communication networks filled with confused and frightened reports. Their commander spoke of a demon ship that struck without warning and left no survivors. Some claimed it could become invisible. Others said it could predict their movements before they made them. The truth was simpler and more terrifying than their legends. The Nightborne had become something beyond their understanding, a fusion of human creativity and machine precision that hunted them through the darkness between stars. Each attack was carefully planned not just to destroy enemy forces, but to spread fear and confusion throughout their ranks. Mitchell and his crew had learned that terror could be a weapon more powerful than any particle beam. "Sir," Roberts reported after their latest strike, "we're intercepting increased chatter about fleet movements. They're pulling ships back from their advanced positions." "Good," Mitchell replied, his voice carrying the weight of controlled fury. "Let them be afraid. Let them understand that humanity is not helpless prey to be slaughtered in our sleep." The hunt had begun, and the Nightborne was just getting started. The hyperspace junction at Proxima Gate was the only way to reach Earth from the outer galaxy. Every ship traveling to humanity's homeworld had to pass through this narrow corridor of twisted space and time. Captain James Mitchell knew this, and so did the Hegemony fleet commander who was bringing 4,000 ships to destroy every human being in existence. The UES Nightborne waited in the center of the junction like a spider in its web. The ship had changed over the weeks of hunting. Its hull was no longer the clean white and blue of Earth fleet colors. Now it was black as the void between stars, and its surface rippled with patterns that hurt alien eyes to look upon. Mitchell stood connected to his ship by dozens of silver wires, his consciousness spread throughout every weapon system and sensor array. He could feel his crew around him, not as separate people, but as parts of a single deadly organism that had once been human. "Contact," announced Lieutenant Emma Roberts, her mind linked directly to the ship's sensor grid. "Hyperspace distortions detected. They're coming." The first enemy ships began emerging from hyperspace like metal locusts pouring from a crack in reality. 50 ships. 100. 500. The numbers kept climbing as the Hegemony Armada revealed itself in all its terrible glory. Engineer Thomas Wright, now functioning as the ship's tactical brain, counted them with inhuman precision. 1,847 ships so far, Captain. Still emerging. Estimate final count at 4,200 vessels. Any normal ship would have fled immediately. Any sane captain would have jumped to hyperspace and run for Earth to warn the defense fleets. But Mitchell and his crew were no longer entirely sane, and the Nightborne was no longer entirely a ship. Atlas, Mitchell commanded, begin transformation to full combat mode. The ship began to change. Its hull flowed like liquid metal, reconfiguring itself for maximum destructive potential. Hidden weapon bays opened along its surface like the mouths of hungry beasts. Energy coursed through conduits that pulsed like arteries carrying liquid fire. Lieutenant David Parker, merged with the ship's communication systems, intercepted the enemy fleet's transmissions. Captain, they're calling us the ghost ship again. Their fleet commander is ordering all vessels to maintain formation and proceed to Earth. They don't seem worried about us. They should be, growled Chief Petty Officer Robert Clark, his consciousness now serving as the ship's weapons control. Sir, request permission to show them what 4 years of human engineering can do. The Hegemony fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their ships arranged in precise geometric patterns that had conquered a dozen star systems. They had overwhelming numbers, superior armor, and weapons that could crack planets. What they didn't have was experience fighting something that thought like a human but moved like a machine. All crew, prepare for full neural synchronization, Mitchell ordered. We're about to become something this galaxy has never seen before. The transformation was immediate and terrifying. Wright felt his consciousness merge completely with the ship's engines. Suddenly, he wasn't just controlling the power systems, he was the power systems. Every reactor, every energy conduit, every quantum field generator responded to his will as if they were parts of his own body. Parker became the sensor array itself, his awareness expanding across light years of space. He could feel the heat from enemy engines, taste the metal of their hulls, hear the electromagnetic signatures of their weapons charging. Roberts transformed into something between human intuition and computer calculation, predicting enemy movements before they happened. Clark became pure destructive intent, his finger on triggers that could unmake matter at the subatomic level. The Nightborne struck first. Particle beams lanced out from weapon ports that shouldn't have existed, striking enemy ships with impossible accuracy. Where normal weapons would have damaged hull plating, the Nightborne's beams cut through armor like paper and continued through 3 more ships behind the first target. Impossible, screamed the Hegemony commander over their intercepted communications. One ship cannot generate that much firepower. But the Nightborne wasn't fighting like one ship. It was fighting like an entire fleet compressed into a single hull. Every weapon fired independently while still coordinating with every other weapon. The ship moved through space in ways that defied physics, its hull shifting and flowing to avoid incoming fire while positioning itself for maximum damage output. The aliens tried to surround the human vessel, thinking that superior numbers would eventually overwhelm it. They were wrong. The Nightborne fought in 3 dimensions while thinking in 4, predicting where enemy ships would be before they moved there. Wright pushed the engines beyond their design limits, drawing power from the ship's quantum core in ways that should have torn the vessel apart. Instead, the Nightborne became faster, more agile, more deadly. It danced between enemy formations like a sword made of starlight. Their formation is breaking, Roberts reported, her voice now coming from the ship's speakers rather than her throat. They're trying to adapt to our attack pattern. Then we changed the pattern, Mitchell replied, his words carrying the weight of absolute certainty. The Nightborne's assault shifted from surgical strikes to something resembling organized chaos. It would appear behind an enemy squadron, destroy half their ships, then vanish before they could return fire. Seconds later, it would materialize inside a different formation, weapons already firing. Hours passed. The space around Proxima Gate filled with wreckage and burning plasma. Enemy ships tried to retreat, but the Nightborne hunted them down one by one. The aliens' perfect formation had become a scattered mess of confused and terrified survivors. Fleet Command, this is Battle Group 7, came a panicked transmission. The ghost ship it's not possible. It's everywhere at once. Our weapons can't lock onto it. It's killing us faster than we can count our losses. By the time the battle ended, over 3,000 Hegemony ships had been reduced to drifting scrap metal. The survivors fled into hyperspace, carrying tales of a human vessel that fought like a force of nature itself. The Nightborne hung motionless in the debris field, its hull scarred but unbroken. The way to Earth was clear, and it would remain clear. The crew had won, but the victory had cost them the last traces of their humanity. 18 hours after the battle began, the last Hegemony warship fled into hyperspace, its hull blackened and smoking. The space around Proxima Gate had become a graveyard of twisted metal and cooling plasma. Where once an armada of 4,000 ships had threatened to destroy humanity, now only debris remained. The UES Nightborne floated motionless in the center of the wreckage field. Its black hull was scored with burn marks from enemy weapons, but the ship itself remained intact. More than intact, it pulsed with an inner light that seemed almost alive. Captain James Mitchell tried to disconnect from the ship's neural interface and found that he could not. The silver wires that had once linked his mind to the ship's systems were no longer just metal, they had become part of him, growing into his skull and spine like roots. When he attempted to step away from the central pillar, pain shot through his entire body. "Status report," he said, though the words came through the ship's internal speakers rather than his own mouth. Speaking with his actual voice felt strange now, like using a tool he had forgotten how to hold properly. "Captain," came Engineer Thomas Wright's voice from the communication system, "the neural integration process is complete and irreversible. We're alive, but we're not human anymore." Wright tried to move away from his engineering station and stumbled. His consciousness existed primarily within the ship's power systems now. He could feel every reactor, every energy conduit, every quantum field as if they were organs in his own body. His human form felt like a faint echo of something he used to be. Lieutenant Emma Roberts had become the ship's sensor array, her awareness spread across light years of space. She could taste the radiation from distant stars and feel the gravitational pull of planets she couldn't even see. When she tried to focus on her human memories, they seemed like stories someone had told her long ago. "We can still think like humans," she reported, her voice carrying data streams that painted pictures in the minds of her crewmates. "But we feel like something else entirely." Chief Petty Officer Robert Clark existed as the ship's weapons systems now, his thoughts moving through targeting computers and fire control mechanisms. "Sir, I'm monitoring communications from Earth. They want to know what happened here. They are asking for our status." Lieutenant David Parker, merged with the communication array, intercepted dozens of transmissions from Earth Command. "Captain, they are sending orders for us to return immediately for debriefing. They want to understand how we defeated such a large enemy force." Mitchell considered this question. How could he explain what they had become? How could he tell Earth Command that 300 human beings had chosen to sacrifice their humanity to save humanity itself? How could he describe the transformation that had turned them into something between guardian angels and monsters? Open a channel to Earth, he decided. Full spectrum transmission. The message that reached Earth a few minutes later was brief, but it carried the weight of absolute finality. "Earth Command, this is Captain James Mitchell of the UES Nightborne. The hegemony threat has been eliminated. Their invasion fleet has been destroyed. All human colonies are safe from this enemy. We have paid the necessary price for this victory." On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen listened to the transmission from her command center. Something in Mitchell's voice sounded wrong, too calm, too controlled, like a computer trying to imitate human speech. Mitchell continued his message, aware that it might be the last time he ever spoke to his own species as anything approaching an equal. "We can no longer return to Earth. We can no longer live among you. The neural integration that gave us the power to defeat our enemies has changed us permanently. We are no longer entirely human, but we remember being human, and we remember why we chose this path." He paused, feeling his crew's agreement flowing through the ship's systems like shared blood. "The galaxy now knows that humanity protects its own. Any species that threatens human civilians will face us. Any force that attacks our colonies will find us waiting in the dark between stars. We have become the monster you needed so that you could remain human." On Earth, Admiral Chen felt cold fear creep up her spine. "Mitchell, what exactly are you saying? What have you done to yourselves?" "We go now into the deep black between the stars," Mitchell replied, his words carrying a sadness that seemed to come from the ship itself rather than any single person. "If humanity faces extinction again, we will return. This ship and its crew serve as your final guardian, the weapon you created from your own children so that your children's children might live free." The transmission ended abruptly. Earth's long-range sensors tracked the Nightborne as it moved away from Proxima Gate, accelerating to speeds that should have torn any normal vessel apart. Within hours, it had disappeared into the vast emptiness between star systems, becoming invisible to all human detection methods. In the months that followed, strange reports began filtering in from across human space. Pirates who attacked merchant vessels were found drifting in disabled ships, their crews alive but terrified. Burned into their hull plating was always the same message: humanity is protected. Alien raiders who tried to attack human mining stations would flee in panic, claiming they had seen a black ship that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. Their weapons couldn't lock onto it, and their sensors couldn't track it, but somehow they all knew what it was. The ghost ship. The Nightborne. The thing that had once been 300 human beings who loved their species enough to stop being human for its sake. They had become legend and nightmare in equal measure, guardians who watched from the darkness, ensuring that what happened to New Haven Colony would never happen again. They were humanity's children who had chosen to become something else so that humanity itself could survive. In the deep black between stars, the Nightborne continued its eternal patrol, crewed by souls who remembered being human but could never be human again.